Let's learn something really quick.
If you got the time, absolutely. And you got the discipline, there's no question about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great practice to put into your everyday life, you guys.
You generally regret the things you don't do, not the things you did do. Let me say it that way.
Mic drop. This was just awesome. I love meeting my guests in person, and it's a whole nother animal, and the energy is just electric. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. What is good, everyone? This is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. To live your best life, you must live label free. As always, bring incredible guests from all over the world, so sit back, relax, and tune in. My next guest is a speaker, trainer, executive coach, president of Baffour International LLC, featured top female speaker with HubSpot, author of I Dare You to Care, using emotional intelligence to inspire, influence, and achieve remarkable growth. Also has been mentored by Dr. Maya Angelou. Please welcome Sylvia Baffour. Sylvia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It's exciting to be here with you and your listeners.
It's exciting to have you here. You've got quite the like, you've done a lot. You know, another like a type A person on the show. I feel like that's all I talk to are people that do incredible things.
I mean, maybe that says something really good about you and sort of what you're attracting energetically, you know?
Perhaps. But I think that it's an example, like my guests are great examples of what's possible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I read something on your website, something by being attacked by an orangutan and overcoming that. So did that actually really happen to you?
It did. I got chased by a hippo in Kenya. You know, I love animals, but for some reason, not all of them tend to like me. And with respect to the orangutan, I was in the Cameroonian zoo with my whole family of 5 of us. And I'm not sure why the orangutan chooses me out of the lineup of all 5 of us to break out of his cage. And he came and like sort of he just, ripped a little bit of flesh out of my wrist and then runs back into the cage and closes himself in because he knew what he had done. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, so it was a male orangutan.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, quite the experience. I don't think many people could say that's happened to them.
Hopefully not. It's probably, yes, it's one of those things you don't want to necessarily claim. Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder what that was all about. Did they come to you, the zoo people or keepers come to you and talk to you afterwards? Like,
I mean, they did talk to my father, and he was highly annoyed because he had asked if the cages were all locked. And of course, they said yes. I mean, they apologized, but that's pretty much. Then I went to get all these rabies shots at the hospital,
Oh, for sure. You never know. Well, wow. You are an example of like, there's no ceiling to what we can accomplish. So when did you want to start becoming a speaker? Because being like one of the top female speakers with HubSpot is pretty huge.
It's interesting you asked that because a lot of people don't necessarily know this up front, especially because my chosen profession is speaking now. And, I grew up being painfully shy. I was an incredibly shy little girl. And I spent a lot of my life just observing people and not being in the cliques and not being the popular kid. And, I got to a point where I realized that I wanted to be the kind of person that others want to share their problems with and just commiserate, right? Like the connection. And I knew that being able to speak and present ideas and share was important. And so I joined Toastmasters about 18 years ago, the organization that helps people improve their speaking, so I could speak my way out of a paper bag, so to speak. But I did start off, imagining that I would be a speaker because I was a business consultant with Arthur Andersen back in the late 90s, doing finance, business consulting type work, but very quickly realized that my heart was in the things relating to psychology and the human experience, and so then I started life coaching practice in 2000, and then that grew a couple of years later into the professional speaking journey, which I've been on now for about 19 years.
That's amazing. And at what point were you mentored by Dr. Maya Angelou?
Yeah, from about 2002 till she passed away in 2014. Yeah, and I actually met her waiting tables at a restaurant in DC. So I wasn't expecting to meet her, let alone be mentored by her, and but sometimes it's about just being ready for the moments that life presents us, Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about taking those opportunities when they come, when they present themselves. Like I will say yes to every phone call, to every meeting, because you never know what's going to come out of it. And like 9 times out of 10, it's always something very good at the end of it.
Yes. Very true. Very true. Yeah. We can't wait until we are 100% ready for something to leak.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm exploring getting on a stage speaking. I'm actually currently working with a coach right now, and that's actually like scares me. I do this all day long. I talk and I put myself out there around the world all day long, moving to TV here soon. And it's like, why would that scare me? I don't know.
You have high standards for yourself, and you definitely want to make sure you're, well received and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's something we all grapple with, even the more seasoned speakers.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. And you mentioned before we started recording that you just came back from a 3-day training to improve your speaking skills, which it's like, I love that you're constantly investing in your craft, which I think that a lot of people don't realize that you have to.
Absolutely. It's you never stop, until the world stops for you because you don't exist anymore,
Yeah. That's true. So let's talk about your book, I Dare You to Care. Now, this is going to be like, we're going to unpack this because it's a pretty heavy topic, right? What was the motivation behind writing this book?
The biggest motivation, I think, was the fact that my chosen area of focus is emotional intelligence as a speaker and trainer. And I think it was important for me to sort of bottle my ideas up into a book because I don't have an opportunity to speak everywhere in the world at the same time, But I think another question that maybe I would add to yours is this idea of why the name of the book and why did I write it the way I did, And I wanted to dare people to care, right, about the way they're moving through this world, be more intentional about the way others experience us, the way we manage life's challenges. And I didn't want the book to read like a textbook because I find the older I get, the worse my attention span is when it comes to reading. Yeah. And I found myself reading a lot of emotional intelligence books and not getting beyond halfway because they would get a little technical and a little sciencey, and I just wanted something that I call it, taking emotional intelligence out of our heads, off the pages of books and with us into the streets of our lives every day. And so I wanted my book to reflect that, right? So it's anecdotal. It's you get to see stories of emotional intelligence working or not working in people's lives every day, And I drove Lyft actually for 18 months as part of the book creation process to interview unsuspecting passengers. And I didn't, impose my book on people, but when people would ask me certain questions, I knew it opened up the doors for me to have a conversation about what I was working on. And I got such incredible insight and amazing stories from CEOs of companies, forensic investigators, ESPN news anchors that I was dropping off at the airport. And it was really a fun experience, Yeah,
I bet. Yeah, I was a Uber driver for some time, and it's definitely an experience. I never had a bad experience, but you do meet some characters. So I know what emotional intelligence is, and I think a lot of people on the surface knows what it means or what it is. So for you and what you're trying to share and trying to leave this legacy behind about, being more intentional, what does it mean to you and the message you're trying to get across with anybody that engages with this episode, engages with your book, engages with your speaking? Because I think that emotional intelligence might mean something different to everyone.
For sure. That's a great question. And the more intellectual way people look at it is that it's your ability to recognize and understand your own emotions and the emotions of those around you, and then use that awareness to guide your decisions and your interactions more effectively. But for me, what emotional intelligence means to me is simply this: how effective are you at interacting with other human beings?
Yeah,
that's really in a nutshell, right? So how aware are you of your own emotions, and how much do you care about the impact they're having on you and the people around you, And I really think I was doing a presentation last week, and I often quote Jim Carrey, comedian turned philosopher.
Yes.
But I think he had it right when he said that the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. And that, in a way, defines emotional intelligence. Because if it's a good effect, it buys us a lot of favor, right? And we're hardwired for connection, and we want to be the kinds of people that others want to be around. And that cannot happen if we're not being emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, for sure. And in today's world where we're all we're not so divided as we are disconnected, how do we bring people back to being aware of that emotional intelligence instead of being so disconnected? Because I feel like that's where we're missing the mark. You know what I mean? Where people are just like, go, go, go. They're on their phones nonstop and they're just not really paying attention to what's going on around them. And they aren't really tuning into like those emotions and like really caring about what's going on around them.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind for me as the most important thing we can do to start to rebuild some of those connections we've lost and is curiosity. Is like, can we lead our lives with a little bit more curiosity than judgment? You know what I mean? I think we are living in a world where it's become so easy to just wake up each morning loaded with judgment as we move through the streets of our lives every day. And, I cannot empathize with you while I'm judging you at the same time. I just, it's impossible, I think. And so I think if we, even just stopping ourselves and saying, I wonder why I'm thinking this about this person, right?
Yeah.
Or just, like empathy, which is really what we're driving at, right? Curiosity and empathy. I heard one of the most profound definitions of it in reading something that Brene Brown had written. And it was so profound that it stuck in my mind. And it's this idea that, she says, we need to dispel the myth that empathy is walking in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Rather than walking in your shoes, I need to learn how to listen to the story you tell about what it's like in your shoes and believe you even when it doesn't match my own experiences. And I really think that is a powerful way for us to start reconnecting, right? Like, because we are not extending the very empathy and courtesy towards others that we expect people to extend to us. And we don't need empathy around people who see the world the way we do, because what's the point, right? And so I often say that we don't need EI skills when our lives are perfect, when our relationships are firing on all cylinders. We need it in those uncomfortable, those challenging, those inconvenient moments of our lives,
Oh, yeah, for sure. That just kind of gave me like chills a little bit. I am an empath. And so, like, I definitely have, the emotional intelligence for me is can be very heightened sometimes. My husband is not. He's very hardened by his job. And it's like, I try to talk to him sometimes, like, you really stop getting so angry. Like, he reacts and he gets very angry at people, like talking to him on the phone, paying a bill. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you talking to this person this way? Well, I'm like, you think that you're the only person they got to deal with in their day? Like, why would you treat them like that? And I'm like, you'd want to do that when I'm not around? Go ahead. But don't do that when I'm sitting next to you, because it's very uncomfortable. And I'm embarrassed that you would treat someone else so poorly like that, because that's not right. And I mean, like, you don't know what that person's going through throughout the day. And so, like, I like you to move through the world with some compassion is very, very important. And like, you have to like kind of, I like what you said, to kind of understand what their experience is in their life and try to be understanding and respect it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I totally echo what you're saying. We all have people around us who, some are more empathetic, some are not. And I just think about, us being mindful of the fact that we're constantly making judgments as human beings. And we have to, because we've got to make decisions. But are there moments where we can, since we're going to be making up assumptions about people, we assume positive intent, right? You know what I mean? Like, I remember there's a quick story I have in my book. When I started driving Lyft initially, I had a ride that was one of the most teachable moments for me. And I didn't know that at the time. So it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm not a morning person, but I got up to go, interview these folks. And I pick up a lady not far from my house, and it was a shared ride, right? She had to, but lucky for her, nobody joined the ride, so it's not going to delay her getting to work. So the moment she gets in my car, she just storms in and sort of slams the door, and she's huffing and puffing in the backseat. And I'm just like, it's too early for this girl, right? In my head, thinking, so I overshot her street by like a few yards, and I had to reverse. It was a one-way street, so I couldn't go. She essentially had to walk about 4 row houses to get to my car. So that annoyed her to begin with. And then we drive there, and we're getting to DuPont Circle in DC, and there's this weird circle turn, and I slightly missed it, but I was reversing. Once again, it's not like I've gone on an exit that I can't come. And she just, let me out, and just huffing and puffing, and just, and I said to me, just turn around and apologize, so even though it didn't feel like I'd done wrong, I turned around and I said, I'm sorry. And she just, slammed the door and storms off and walks the 100-yard, whatever it was, to her office. And I spent the next 5 minutes just in my head bitching her about this. It's the horrible human being. She has no friends. Nobody loves her. Like, I'm having this going in my head. But then I stopped after the anger just subsided, and I said, what if she woke up this morning and was told that she has 3 months to live?
Yeah.
Or that the husband, deserted her in the middle of the night, or right?
Yeah.
And I start to assume things that all of a sudden were making me feel a little embarrassed for making these assumptions.
Sure.
Now, look, the point is, I don't know what her story was. I don't know if she was just a sourpuss or if she really did have some bad things going on in her life.
Yeah.
Either way, we have the power to make assumptions. And if we're going to make assumptions, let's assume positive intent. It doesn't cost us much. It helps our spirit and energy, right? Because then I can move on with my day instead of being ruined by somebody who I know nothing about. You know what I mean? So that's how we can really start to engage with others and connect with people we don't understand is, can we extend that grace and make positive assumptions about people?
I love that. That's a beautiful story. Beautiful story. You're an executive coach, so you work with a lot of executives, people in leadership, I'm assuming. How important is for them to start embracing emotional intelligence in the way that they lead their teams or they show up as a leader in their career?
Yeah, it is so critical. I was doing a keynote a couple of weeks ago for a company in the energy space and some of their top leaders. And it was important for them to realize you are leading human beings, not a product, right? Not oil, not Campbell's soup, not, and so it's so vital to understand if you're going to get the best out of your people, you've got to make them feel like giving their best.
Sure.
And the tough part of leadership with this is that it is individualized, right? The way you may be someone who is very matter of fact, and I'm just hypothesizing. Like I can straight shoot with you. If I need something done, need something corrected, straight shoot with you. I have somebody else on my team who's a little bit more sensitive, wears their emotions on their sleeves. I have to adjust the messaging. And some leaders think of that as, I'm cow. What's the word? Cow. You're like, I'm bending versus seeing it as I am doing what I need to do as a leader to get the best out of them, to meet them where they are, because human beings aren't monolithic. We're all different. And so emotional intelligence is what allows these leaders to understand, to have the awareness, the self-awareness to say, who on my team loves to receive an email as a sign of appreciation? Yeah. Who's the one who wants the extra day vacation? Who's the one that just wants a mention at the next public event or the gift card? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so important. It's those subtle things of treating people like human beings and not robots or like a monolithic community,
I love that. Yeah. Is there a point where we can exercise too much emotional intelligence?
That's a good question. And as I think about it, my instinct is to say no. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I think when we're showing too much emotional intelligence, as most of us might imagine that would look like, is the leader who is showing so much empathy and being so nice that they can't have the difficult conversation. But that's not emotional intelligence, because emotional intelligence in a leader that's effective is, I'm going to have the difficult conversation with you because my being honest with you is the kindest thing I can do. So my emotional intelligence kicks in with the choice of words, my body language, my tone, what I call influencing the emotional aftertaste of my interactions with you. So I don't think you can be too emotionally intelligent. I think falsely, people think of EI as being too nice. Yeah. Right? Or too passive.
That's a label. The label they put on
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
But you cannot have too much emotional intelligence, because if it's being used in the right manner, empathy, lovingly having that difficult conversation with kindness, and yet having it, not avoiding it, right? So anyone who's exhibiting too much is either maybe the narcissistic leader who just show you they're empathizing with you only so they can use it against you when they know where you're coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that having emotional intelligence is kind of like working a muscle. You have to exercise it, consistently and in the right way to really effectively lead or show up in that way in your life, because we all fall off the horse. We all have bad days. And to show up with some emotional intelligence to someone else when you're having a bad day is showing strength and, and character. And I think that I consistently want to show up in a way where I'm empathetic towards others, even if I'm having a bad day. And, it can be hard sometimes, not to want to just react to someone because you feel badly, but I don't ever want to treat someone else poorly because I know how I feel when I'm not having a good day.
Absolutely. And so that you don't live your life in a way where you're always having to apologize and sort of walk things back because I let my emotions get the best of me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. With that being said, Sylvia, where can people find you, connect with you, and purchase your book?
I can be found everywhere on the internet, but specifically, yeah, that's the beauty of the internet, right?
Yes.
Just Google people's names these days. But Sylvia Speaks, Sylvia Speaks.com is my main website. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So Sylvia Baffour, type that into LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as Sylvia Speaks or my full name. Yeah, those are probably the main hubs where you can find me.
And I Dare You to Care can be purchased anywhere.
Yes, it can be purchased on my website. So sylviaspeaks.com/book, or you can sort of mess around, or on Amazon. I can't autograph books that come from Amazon because they are fulfilling the orders. But if anyone wanted a particular messaging or something, then I would say do it through the site directly.
I love it.
And it's an audio book as well, which is recorded in my voice. It was a painful, fun journey, but I got it done.
I bet that I can't even imagine, but I'm sure it's personalized with you read it like with the audiobook. You guys, I'm gonna put those links in the show notes. So if you connect with Sylvia today and you connected with the message of emotional intelligence and you want to learn more or just purchase a book, go click those links, go give her a follow on social, and reach out to her if you have any questions. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. Sylvia, this is the part of the show where I like to ask for last words of wisdom or advice. What would you like to leave with us today?
Dare to care about how you are moving through this world and be mindful of the fact that everyone is deserving of the best essence that you have to give out. And it's an ongoing journey that we're all going to keep working on, but just stay committed to being enjoyable to be around.
Yes. And I love this message so much. It means a lot to me because I think it's super important. And the more that we can get people to understand what it means and have them use it and exercise it in their life, the better world it will be for everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sylvia. We really appreciate you. And I love what you're doing with your message. And I cannot wait to continue to see you rise on the stage.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys, this is your host, Deanna Radulescu with Label Free Podcast. Live your best life. You must live label free. As always, don't forget to subscribe, follow, rate, review, comment, share, all those good things. And I'll be back soon with more dynamic guests.